Okay, today we're gonna go over more details in my retirement plan. So today we're gonna look at some of the insights stuff underneath Boldin. We've already gone over the stuff above in my prior video. So let's dive right into it. So, true to form, I'll give you my current net worth. I'll hover over this. This is where I'm at now. This is what I'll be at the end of the plan, if everything goes as normal. So let's just dive right in. So library, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So the library is just all these. So let's just take a quick look at projected incomes. I wish, I wish it was a grid. I hate that I have to like hover over all this stuff. It would be so much easier if I could just show you guys the grid. But I mean, I'll just highlight what you may have already deduced by looking at the prior video. But so currently my wife's working, so you'll see under income she's 78K. I don't know what the other is. The other may be something else. Net savings drawdown is what I need to take out, to fulfill the budget. So then next year, she's going to continue to work. So you're seeing that 78.5, and the story is relatively the same, keeps on cranking. It should stop, yeah, right around here because she'll be retiring like in July or something like that of this year. So that means she'll have a partial year, but her Social Security will kick in for 6/9. Her pension will kick in for 12/6. I don't know what this other is. I'll have to find out what this 1,500 other is. Probably doesn't change anything. Maybe it's interest. I don't know. Um, and then there's our expenses, and our expenses will start going up then too. So then they're relatively level. Social Security is the same. And now what am I doing? I'm just drawing down. At this point in time, I'll be drawing down from my Roth because what I would have done in 26 and 27, I'm going to do two Roth conversions for 165K. And then for the following 4 years, I'll be drawing from my savings account. Oops, that must be infuriating when I'm bouncing all over the place like that. So, our expenses are going to go up because we're going to start spending more on vacation, things like that. So, that's a relatively common story until I hit 67. Then you'll see our Social Security, we go from 24 to 83. And that's because we'll be collecting my Social Security, which in and of itself is kind of mind-boggling, right? To think you could get 60,000 a year in Social Security. Right now, it's without inflation, it's like 38. So it puts me at like 48,000 a year. But if I look at the difference here, 24 and 60 and 83, that's almost 60 grand. Not quite, maybe 55, something like that. Um, so anyhow, you'll see one thing note, her pension doesn't have COLAs in it, so it stays the same. Um, so then we should be going down, which we are. You'll see we go from 194 down to 187. Not sure why. You would think I'd actually be going down more than that as we're collecting 60. Um, that may be something I look into, why it's not going down further in terms of net savings. Oh, no, that makes sense. My expenses are still the same. Sorry. Net savings drawdown is 144 in 2033 and it's 78 in 2034. So my expenses are still the same, but they consider a net savings drawdown income. A little weird, but I can handle it. Boldin is counting. When I think of income, you would think it would just be Social Security, pensions, and that's it. But they actually count what I take out of my assets to pay my expenses. Okay, so you'll see the net savings drawdown is quite a bit less, going from 144 to 78, and that's because of my Social Security. So just keep trucking through here. It's pretty standard, even if you visually look at it, it's all the same. I mean, of note, I probably have to start taking RMDs against my wife's 403B, so that's 15 grand. Let's see. But again, an RMD isn't all bad. I think sometimes people just associate RMDs with bad. But if you have to take out the money anyhow to meet expenses, then who cares? Let it, just because it's classified as an RMD, who cares? So you'll see my expenses between this year at 215 and this year only 220. So it's not like the RMD is making my income go way up. You know what I mean? It's staying relatively same. I'm just using it to pay off my stuff down. Yeah. So you'll see 94K for net savings and drawdown, but now I'm down to 82K in net savings and drawdown because I'm taking out of my 403Bs. which actually should make me take a look at their drawdown order. But anyhow, for now, we'll just stick with this. Another video, another day. So, nothing crazy here, just more RMDs when I turn 75. But our expenses aren't going up that much, 225 to 229. Um, and then this is the year 77. That's when, at least in the plan, we sell the house. So you see a net savings drawdown of 609. I believe what that's all about is my income is 1.28 million, which is it's hard to get my head around that too. And that other is from a house sale. So I've had my house at 725,000 right now, which I think is a pretty conservative number. So in my house appreciation amount, which I can't remember how much that is, in 2044, according to Boldin, it's going to be worth 1.28 million. So so what I'm doing, remember what I'm doing too, is I'm selling it, and then I have to pay my big deposit on my long-term disability, that continuing, what do they call it? CCRC, something like continuing care retirement center, something like that. And that's becoming more and more popular, but I don't know, it could just be my feed. I'm seeing a lot more of those popping up in my feed, so I'll do another I'll do another video on that, going through an article and comparing it to what the place I'm planning on going into. So what's happening is that 609,000 is a $350,000 deposit, which what it would be in today's dollars, inflated. So that's why you see this net savings drawdown spike to 609,000. And I'll be feeding that from the proceeds of the house. Okay, and so then it's just back down to normal. 78, we actually drop off into our go-go years. We drop out of our go-go years, so it's 255, 227. So probably what's going to happen here, and this will actually be a good thing, right? If these RMDs may start kicking in a lot heavier because our spending is going to go down. When we get into expenses versus income, we'll take a look at what happens if RMDs are keeping my level of spending, even though my vacations and stuff isn't adding up to as much. So then we just kind of play this out. It stays relatively consistent all the way through. Okay, so this little dot just says that's when my wife dies, and this theoretically is when I die. Okay, so that's income projection. Not much else going on there. That's, nothing. I'm just kind of going through, and so you guys can get into my head and how I use these things. Current net worth, this is pretty unexciting. I mean, I'll show it to you. You've kind of already seen it when I hover over. So my wife's 403B, we have 213,000. That's with this company that I just can't stand. I'm not going to name names, but everything is a pain to manage. Like when I wanted to move my stuff into gold, it was so easy. I can do it in like 15 minutes. But with hers, you have to call up the rep, and the rep has to do it, and it's just a massive hassle. So I may in the next year just move that into the same company that I use. So I have a fixed annuity that's accumulated to 458. That's 4.45. My IRA is currently at this. So I have some Roth savings in there. This was the 3 years before I retired. I just basically got a raise. And then I found out through my company, not my company, but through my the company that holds my 401k, that you can do backdoor Roths, and they'll do everything for you. And they'll take it right out of your paycheck and everything. They'll do the whole thing. I always thought that, oh, I'm gonna have to do all this weird stuff. They do the whole thing. So if you can do a backdoor Roth, do it. So that's what this is. This is my backdoor Roth, essentially, before I retired. This is just what I have in CDs and I have it in CDs. I have it most of it is on an internet bank. And this is a little old, because I don't update this that often, but it's still in the ballpark. And then this is my house, real estate. So, there's not much there. Debt breakdown, we have no debt, so that's okay. Okay, so this is just essentially the summary page. What's nice about this, though, I don't know if your overview gives you this. It kind of gives you where in your plan is your greatest risk, right? According to the Monte Carlo. So if you can see, well, I mean, you can't see. On yours, though, if you take a look, my biggest risk right now, at my risk point, is 76 and my wife is 78. And that kind of makes sense, right? Because I'm not downsizing. I'm keeping my house asset my house is an asset, but it's not in the picture. So that's why the only thing that this looks at is when do you run out of funds. So theoretically, at 76 is when, is the worst shot I could have. And I'm not sure. Oh, this is poor outcome. So if I run this with poor, I'm going to have 440,000, but my normal savings would be projected 1.7 million. So, and I'm still finding that hard to believe, but I think it's just all been the market. When I actually retired a year and a half ago, this this line right here, it was not a poor outcome of 440K. It was like a poor outcome of like 100, if not less. And but I knew it. I was willing to accept that risk in that I would have this big asset on the books of my house. Now, in reality, and I'm going to do a whole video on this. I'm going to sell my house probably in the next 6 years, but it's going to be a lateral. So I want to buy a house on the lake, but I'm not going to own two houses. I can't stand maintaining one house, much less two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell this house and buy a house in the lake, and I'm going to do a video on that and what I'm thinking and how I want to play that game. But I didn't model it in Boldin because Boldin was doing some weird stuff that I didn't understand. And I looked at it and said, "Hey, shouldn't I mean, yeah, there's I'm going to sell the house myself. I'm not. I sold my own house the first year with Zillow and things like that. I'm just going to price the crap out of it. Excuse me, make it real high. And if I don't sell it for that price, then I'll eventually go to a realtor. So I figure I got nothing to lose. So anyhow, that's this. The nice thing about this chart or this whatever, yeah, I guess it's a chart, line chart, line graph, whatever, is it kind of shows you at what age you have the most risk. So you can start kind of keeping an eye on that, and then you just see I sell my house and then bang, I get all the assets from that. So all my assets spike because essentially I'm keeping a portion of it. I'm using one portion of the house sales, my down deposit, and the other portion I'm keeping. So that's what you're seeing right here. And then it just is. And then I'm right back down again with a poor outcome of 520K. Okay, and of course there's a 98% chance, whatever. Just not to get the wrong impression, like 90, again, some people may comment, and they rightfully so. If you have a 98% chance of success, you should spend more money, at least for a couple years. So when I see that go up a little more, and obviously you do it the smart way. You're going to Bolden. You say, well, what would happen if I spent 30,000 on vacation, and then maybe you get down to like 85, 87, and then you go spend that. But 98% would suck, right? Because theoretically on that I'm leaving some fun life experiences on the table, and I don't want to do that. Okay, so I'm knowing about all this stuff. This one was kind of cool. So IRMAA, what is IRMAA? IRMAA basically says, listen, if you make X amount of money, and I'm sure most people watching this channel know what it is. You make X amount of money, then you're gonna have to pay extra for Medicare. I think that's fair. You make a buttload of money, you should have to pay a little extra for Medicare. So it stands for the income related Medicare adjustment amount, which makes perfect sense, right? So what was cool, and I didn't know about this. So I had looked at this, and basically all I cared about was, where is it? How much I'm going to pay. So your IRMAA over lifetime. Zero. I'm never going to pay IRMAA if I stay, even with my RMDs, and that can be an RMD threat too, right? Now, the one thing you have to think about with RMDs though is if your wife dies, and that's the widow's death trap. And I did some calculations for that, and it didn't hit my wife that bad. Um, so I'm not doing the Roth conversions for the purpose of RMDs and the widow's tax trap because I did all the numbers in an earlier video, and it didn't seem to be that bad. Granted, I'll do them again. But so if you look here, this is pretty predictable, right? But this is something kind of cool. Like I didn't realize. So here's the thresholds as they are now for married filing jointly. Here's the thresholds for single filer. So obviously we're not going to be making 500,000. We're probably always going to be in this range. So she may have to pay some money if I die. So let's just cruise through here. What I thought was this was what was really cool. So IRMAA is based on modified adjusted gross income. And one of the things I love about Right Capital is when you pull up Right Capital, it actually gives you a tax form for that year and what it would look like. And Boldin doesn't do that as well. I mean, we'll get into the taxes because obviously taxes is a little section here. And we're going to get into that. Not today. We're going to end at this one today. But what was cool is Modified adjusted gross income is basically the number you want to watch. That's the important number for a lot of things. So, including affordable care and all this good stuff. So, you'll notice this is pretty predictable, right? So, it's going to be great. This year, I'm doing my taxes. This year, for 2025, is the first year I'm going to have just my wife's income. So, the first year in like I don't know, 15 years we haven't had to pay because what happens is when I was making money, I would have my dependents declared or what, whatever I'm having to take out. And what would happen, and I had zero a lot of times, but what happened is I would make like, 200 out 220 and then it would pull her money in there and then it would get taxed at my rate. So it just got to be really ugly. So I would always owe. So this year, I'm probably not going to owe because theoretically, we'll see if this matches at the end of the year. Theoretically, I'm only going to make 81,000. So that's what my wife makes. So hopefully, yeah, I should get some money back. We'll see. I'll be curious, but at least I won't be paying. I was paying like seven. I was paying like 7 grand sometimes. It was just miserable. But what you're going to see, and this is going to get ugly a little bit, is for the next 2 years, you're going to see this big spike, right? And that makes sense because what I talked about earlier, I'm going to be doing a couple Roth conversions so I can keep my modified adjusted gross income low so that if I do qualify for any subsidized health care, I'll be able to qualify. Now, I don't know when. I would think at some point this Obamacare thing, they're going to figure out there's a lot of people like me out there, and they're going to make you disclose your assets in order to get healthcare because it is a little crazy, right? Like I have some family members that don't make a lot of money and they need Obamacare, and I love Obamacare for that but it's ridiculous when people like us, and I'm going to include you in that to a certain extent if you're watching this channel, is I got 2 million in assets and I'm getting a subsidy for healthcare, because on the books, at least in what is on my income taxes, it's only going to be like, it's going to be $79,000. So I'm going to look like I'm close to poverty. And we're married, filing jointly. So anyhow, rant. But so this is 2 years where it's going to go high because I'm going to do two $165,000 Roth conversions. And then that's what you'd expect, right? So we go here, bang, and then back down to here. My wife's going to be retired and we're going to be spending more money. So I'm going to need more money. I'm going to need it in cash, not cash, but Roth, after tax stuff. So that's when you see these are the exact years I'm going to be low, right? So, and that's what I have it figured out in Boldin with money transfers, money flows. So, which I went through in my basics. So, that's what you see. You see when I'm 60, if you look like over here, you'll see it. So when I'm 61 and 63, Beth will be retired. So I have to start covering healthcare. So covering healthcare. Now my wife's going to pick up Medicare at this point because she'll be 65, covering healthcare, and then bang, the year I'm back on. When I qualify for Medicare, then my cash reserves, my Roth's conversion should be depleted, and I should be good to go. And I know there's also the only thing a little tricky in this whole thing is with Roths, if it hasn't been in there 5 years, now my Roth is open, and I'm hoping that they should let me do a conversion. It's from my IRA to my Roth IRA. Yeah, I should be able to do that. So my Roth IRA, technically I would have opened on the books because I transferred it from my 401k plan. Like a couple years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. So that means that thing's got to be open for 5 years. Now, the good thing is you can always draw your principal. You just can't draw gains. So I've worked it out to where this should be enough if I'm just drawing principal. But at this point in time, I'll be back in business since I won't be drawing affordable care. I won't be getting my healthcare for the marketplace. So again, so now you see it. So now my modified adjusted gross income, which I don't remember what line it is on the tax returns, is going to go up because I'm not worried about it anymore. Unless I just want to save some money in taxes. And then you'll see it gradually goes up and up and up. This is that house year. I'm guessing this is the year I sell the house. Yeah, I don't know what the spike is. It's probably just it's something to do with the house, and it just goes up and up and up. Now, what's really interesting about this is I kind of would have expect this may be RMDs here because I would expect this to kind of level off, if not go down a little bit, because I'm not spending. I wonder if when I do a little more homework on my RMDs, this is going to go up. And to be honest with you, that's awesome. If I find out I have more money at that point, I'm going to just start giving it away to the kids. So I may even give some money away to kids before then. But when I get to be at the end of my go-go years, if things are looking good and I'm taking on these RMDs, it's party time for my kids because I'm going to start. I'll probably go with a philosophy of something like whatever RMD, anything that's in an RMD that I'm taking, I'm probably just going to give to the kids. Anything above my expenses. And then it drops significantly here. So this was kind of cool, right? This is something I wasn't really thinking of. This is the important number, and I didn't think Boldin gave it to us, and they do. So this is pretty cool. I was pretty happy about that. So you can see my IRMAA over our lifetime is 000. Not quite sure at the very end. I got to pay 3,000 during IRMAA, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It's like 2,056, but I think she's 91. 2,000. Let's go up here. Where's our adjusted gross income? Oh yeah. Oh no, it goes down. It's not going up. It goes down because I'm assuming because it's kind of funny. Because I think I have her going till I guess she dies at 91, so she doesn't have to pay the taxes and because she died that year. There's this Roth conversion to avoid IRMAA, but it's kind of self-explanatory. I don't pay any, so I don't have anything to avoid. You can go to Tax Insights. You can go to the Roth Conversion Explorer here if you want. We'll talk about that later. I'm at 21 minutes. I'm going to stop. I will cover more of this stuff later. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to label this thing because there's more stuff going on. But that's generally, we're going to do deep dives into this stuff. And like I said, this is all about, if you have an opinion, let it rip, man. My last comment, somebody mentioned about some ETFs. I'm like, that's great. Anything that makes me look at it, I'm probably not going to do it. And I replied to them why, but I'll still go check it out. So, if all this does is encourage you to spend the freaking $120 or 150, whatever it is on Boldin and start doing your own thing, please do it. You can't go wrong. So, a plan. This money is nothing compared to getting a chance to retire and doing a plan. So have a great day, and I will see you next time.